Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick with you as always. Thanks for tuning in for episode number 48 on our weekly series of whiskey reviews. Today we're headed back to reviewing a Scotch whiskey. This one comes from the Speyside region in the Highlands. It's the Dalmore 12-year-old. So Dalmore has a little bit of an extensive range, this being the youngest of that range. Haven't been able to get my hands on any of the older juice yet, but maybe in time we'll get some. So Dalmore, I mean, it's bottled at your standard 40% ABV, but has an age statement on it. And the Dalmore distillery itself is unique in the sense that their maturation and distillation are a little bit different than others out there. So in maturation, you've got 12 years, obviously, it's on the bottle, but they age it in American ex-bourbon casks, and once they get that, they age that for about 9 years. And then from there, what you have is half of that whiskey going on to be aged further in the ex-bourbon casks. Now, they say that it's some of the finest in the world, basically, from America. So probably some, handcrafted small batch straight bourbon or something like that, whatever. And then the other half of it goes into some 30-year-old Methuselah Oloroso sherry casks. So that's what you have going on there. Now, in terms of distillation, instead of just, your regular copper pot still, basic sort of bowl shape on the bottom, and then lowering it into the neck at the top, and the line arm and everything, they do something a little bit different. They actually have, I believe it's four wash and 4 spirit copper pot stills, but they're all sort of unique in their shape and size, and Dalmore, well, the people there say, it gives it its unique quality, which I'm sure there definitely is something to it. So another character that comes along with Dalmore, if you haven't seen already, is Richard Patterson, the master distiller there. And he's been around for years and years and years and years. I want to say 50 plus years probably. So that's really interesting. And basically, now I don't suggest this, but if you watch some of his reviews on whiskey in general or how to taste whiskey, and he does a little bit of interview sessions with different people who bring him on as a guest. But he does something that I'm not going to do here, but we'll sort of go through the steps that I agreed with him in doing. So he'll take your glass, right, and he'll either use a Glencairn like this or a Capita nosing glass, and he'll say, give it a swirl, swirl it around in the glass. I know some people out there don't like me swirling it around in the glass, like that's gonna, the whiskey's going to combust or all its flavor is going to fly out of the room or something like that instantly. It's not going to happen. But what he does, if you watch, is he takes a whiskey and chucks it wherever he is, in his tasting room or whatever, just takes a glass, spins it, and throws it. And he says that, you have to season the glass or something like that. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting whiskey. But I saw him do it once with a 50-year-old. I'm not sure what it was. Something from White & Mackay, I believe. I'm not entirely sure exactly what it is, but you can find it out there. 50 plus years, just swirls it around in the glass, tosses it. You got to season the glass and get it, ready, get it palatable. Crazy. So anyway, we'll get back to the Dalmore. So color, it definitely has a lot of that Oloroso sherry cask influence in there. Being a 30-year-old cask, don't let that fool you into thinking that it's somehow better than others. It's definitely been seeing more spirit over the course of its history, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. You could have a fresher cask, and that might impart different flavors that are still just as good. It's just how different each cask, imparts flavor into the whiskey. So just be mindful of that. So, do a little stroll around the glass. Now also, you might have known, I talk about the legs occasionally, and that is sort of an indication of the year not in the sense that you can count how many years there are, but that it may be older. If the legs tend to trickle down a little bit longer, like some of the wine connoisseurs out there, or if that sort of is fleeting and, you know, flees right back down into the glass, might be a little bit younger. But it's also an indication, a lot of the times, on the proof of the alcohol in your glass. Now this is bottled at 40% ABV, 80 proof, so, you know, nothing too crazy there. So basically, in sort of the veiny legs that you see rolling down the glass are more of an indication of age rather than proof, obviously, in this case. So let's go in for the nose. Definitely the first thing that I'm getting is a very overripe grape and sort of these fruity, citrusy notes. Almost slightly sour white grapes, something like that. I'm thinking of even like white grape juice too. If you smell some of those that have been sitting around, you know, maybe a week or two past that expiration date that you try to overlook, it's like that a little bit. And definitely that has to do with that 30-year-old Methuselah Oloroso sherry cask influence, you know, that definitely, and that is supposedly sourced from some of the finest sources of casks in Spain, a region of Spain. Also in here is a slight undertone of vanilla, which is interesting because definitely the cask and maturation on this whiskey is imparting the greatest flavors to it, or aromas in this case. Let's go in for a taste. Yep, definitely those citrusy fruits. The grape is definitely there. Not as sour tasting as the nose would indicate. A little bit different. But what you're getting here is a nice balance between citrus fruit and vanilla. The vanilla sort of has a nice toning down of those fruits and makes it sort of at a palatable level there, which is interesting. Yeah, it's nothing too crazy here. It's mainly what you're getting is sort of a sample of this really old sherry that was, you know, aging in the cask that is now being aged to create this whiskey. But nothing so far as, you know, citrus, fruits, spice, nuts, that kind of thing. It's not that far-fetched or, you know, far-reaching in its flavors, but it's something more concise and just really well blended. Now I know you say, well, it's a single malt Irish whiskey that's out here, but if it's being aged in different casks, different types of casks, then it's still a single malt, but they do blend it. So that obviously doesn't take away from the name single malt. It's just, you know, a spirit made from malted barley at a single distillery. So don't let that single fool you. Single, one distillery. Just a really nice balance of this fruit and vanilla, a little toasted wood in there. Slight little kick, a little spiciness to it, a little robust flavor in there, but definitely a nice 12-year for this. And I do believe that once you get higher in ages, the flavor profile changes greatly. You know, what they're aiming for in the final result of the whiskey is definitely a different direction. So I'd be interested into seeing how they age those differently, because it's definitely some good quality spirit from the Speyside distillery. Very lovely. So, without further ado, let's get into the score here. We all got things to do. So let's get on with it, you say. So, for the Dalmore 12-year-old, We'll give it a straight talk whiskey score of 89 out of 100. Not too shabby, not too fair, gives it some room for improvement, and that sort of thing. So, have a great rest of the week. If you're going to drink responsibly as always, and we'll see you next time.